Justin Verlander has still yet to throw a pitch for the New York Mets. Meanwhile, Jacob DeGrom has made 5 starts and is leading the league in strikeouts for the Texas Rangers. Did the Mets make a mistake with DeGrom this offseason? We're going to discuss that and more on today's edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Now we'll get to the Mets' loss on Tuesday night in the final segment today. No reason to rush and discuss what was just a brutal game to watch. Instead, let's go through some other Mets agony at the moment. And that's the fact that Jacob DeGrom is still awesome at baseball. And who could have seen that coming? Do I take a victory lap on this one? Probably not. Way too early. But I will say that early in the offseason, I was all in on the DeGrom train. Because I felt like the injury stuff was maybe overblown and he could be healthy. But then again, at the same time, I was looking at it from my rosy red glasses from someone who still owns this back-to-back Cy Young shirt of Jacob DeGrom. A guy that I absolutely love to watch pitch. And there was a lot of emotion tied to my original take, which was that the Mets should not sign Justin Verlander, should not sign Carlos Rodon, should not sign any other free agent imaginable other than bringing Jacob DeGrom home. I believe at one point this offseason, I said that should be their number one priority without a doubt in my mind. Then, we find out the news, and it hit us like a gut punch. Jacob DeGrom, 5 years, $185 million with the Rangers. And then when you saw the number attached, and then Verlander signs quickly after, it's able to quickly make that rationale jump to, okay, it hurts, but the Mets made the right call. And then that's kind of how my opinion changed. It morphed because 5 years, $185 million is a lot of money for Jacob DeGrom. Worth it if he's healthy, but still. And really the years was the thing. Now, I will say, I believe I at one point this offseason might have pitched 5 years, 200. So, look, I would have been okay with it. But armed with all the information, I understood where the Mets went. They felt that 2 years of Justin Verlander was a lot less risky than 5 years of Jacob DeGrom. But if Jacob DeGrom is healthy, this is going to go back and look like one of the biggest mistakes in franchise history. And there's no way for us to really judge this until we're 3 years into this deal and Jacob DeGrom has made 75 plus starts for the Rangers. Because if that's the case, all of a sudden you will have complete hindsight. Because you know what? There's not a pitcher in baseball better than Jacob DeGrom when he's healthy. How many times have we said that? I don't think anyone has any dispute on that. But it's about the health part. And to be fair, there was a little bit of a hiccup in spring. And then there was wrist soreness already this season where he was pulled from a start after throwing just 4 innings. It was a precautionary thing. Got right back out there. His last start was on April 23rd. He went 6 innings. He struck out 11 on 80 pitches. Become one of the few guys who's ever done that in the modern era. Last guy to do it, Jacob DeGrom last year with the Mets against the Braves. 76 pitches to rack up that many strikeouts. Look at his starts right now. First start of the season, Rangers debut. We were all gloating about it. Hey, he gave up 5 runs in less than 4 innings. What has he done since? 6 innings. 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, 7 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned, 9 strikeouts, no walks, 4 innings, no hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, wrist soreness, pulled him. Then this most recent start, 6 innings, 2 runs, 1 of them earned on a homer, 3 hits, 11 strikeouts, no walks. On the season, he's sitting at 36 Ks to 3 walks. And that's all in. Well, actually, that's not even for the season. That's for April. For the season, you have to add on the 7 strikeouts. That puts him up to 43 in 26 2/3. This month, though, 36 and 23 innings. His ERA for the month is 1.57 in 4 starts. He's back to being Jacob DeGrom. He's healthy. He's DeGrom. That's it. We've seen him. We know what that is. If DeGrom stays healthy this year and Justin Verlander does not get back on the mound soon and doesn't pitch well when he does, the buyer's remorse will be instant. Because for a win-now ball club, if Jacob DeGrom goes up and posts 25 starts this year and is healthy come October and is pitching for the Rangers in the playoffs, and you could have had DeGrom Scherzer instead of Verlander Scherzer, I'm sorry, there's no doubt in my mind the Mets made a mistake in this short term. Now, if in 2 years Jacob DeGrom's arm falls off and he's not pitching in years 3, 4, 5 of the contract, he makes a combined 35 starts and he becomes a Steven Strasburg type, well, then you'll be able to say, okay, well, now armed with this hindsight, it was the right call. Ultimately, the Mets did not think the risk was worth the reward. But here's the thing. Baseball is full of irony, and you never really know what you are going to get. So, of course, Jacob DeGrom would make more turns in the rotation through April than Scherzer and Verlander. Combined? Has to be. What am I saying? Of course. Because I can't believe I asked that like it's a question. That was pretty stupid. Verlander hasn't made any starts, and he's made more than Scherzer. So yes, DeGrom has made more starts than both Scherzer and Verlander combined through the month of April. It's pretty ridiculous. We'll see if that trend continues. Luckily for the Mets, Justin Verlander is going to get back on the hill, and that could ease our burden. Because if Justin Verlander goes up, starts putting up zeros and pitching like the guy that had the 1.75 ERA last year, and you have an equal pitcher to Jacob DeGrom with less long-term risk, it might still have been the right call. Currently, though, as we record this on April 25th, I have my own personal remorse on this one, and I kind of wish Jacob DeGrom was still pitching in a Mets uniform. But maybe that's just me. We'll discuss the Verlander situation next. Before we do, our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. So Rare MLB managers who rank at or near the top of their leaderboards will win a variety of rewards, which could include things as incredible as VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. Head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that is sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, double plays, they're all back. There's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. That's because right now, new customers are going to step up to the plate and get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. Again, if you don't win, they're just giving you money. For tonight's game on Wednesday, you want to bet on Kodai Senga over on the strikeouts, Brandon Nimmo getting hits, Mets on the money line. You can bet all those individually, or you can combine them in the same game parlay and increase your odds even more. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel.com today. Again, just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. So the good news for the New York Mets is that Justin Verlander's return is imminent. Through 43 pitches of a live batting practice in Port St. Lucie, met with the media today on Tuesday, said he felt absolutely wonderful, said he's about 90% when it comes to targeted workouts on the specific muscle, but when he's throwing, he feels, as he said, wonderful, great, all is well. Going to have a rehab start, and if that goes as planned, you should see him back on the mound in Detroit, of all places, Wednesday or Thursday next week. And the Mets absolutely need him. Not to necessarily go up and beat Jacob DeGrom, although if he does have 80 pitches to throw, it'd be nice if he struck out 11 Tigers in that span and did what DeGrom just accomplished. That'd be fun for Mets fans. And with Javi Baez in that lineup, there should be 3 strikeouts for him waiting. So that's really solid. But the Mets just need some stability. This rotation has been in turmoil all year long. You need Scherzer back, you need Verlander back, you need these guys to carry you. Because currently, and we'll see how Kodai Senga throws the ball on Wednesday, he has no longer looked like a guy that can be a frontline starter. Now, do I still think that potential's there? Absolutely, but he's got to show it, and not just against the Marlins. He's got to show it against some good teams down the line here. So he's got an easy matchup, you would think, against the Nationals. We'll see if he performs well, but we want to see Senga go up and pitch against a Phillies lineup or a Braves lineup, prove he can be that guy. We know that Scherzer and Verlander can be those guys. Now, Scherzer has had a rough year, okay, between a couple of not great outings to now the suspension and everything else. He just probably wants to get to a point of some routine. And I think Verlander's in that same boat. But once you get them back on the mound together, that's where this team can really roll. This is, I really believe, the toughest kind of stretch, what they just went through, and what they have ahead here until they get these guys back, to go without them. I just can't see their, and look, massive knock on wood, but I can't see their pitching depth tested like it has up to this point in the season again this year. I just think that these guys are going to get healthy for Verlander, cleared for Scherzer, and they're going to start rolling, and it's not going to be what we've seen, which is every single viable starter on the 40-man roster has to be tasked with throwing the baseball like a Budo or Lucchesi and everyone else. So that's what you're hoping to get to. What you have right now to close off what was already a tough stretch with the lack of pitching and the West Coast trip, where the Mets did handle it admirably. They got this series against the Nationals, 4 games against the Braves that's extending into Monday. Then you got the series against the Tigers. That's where it should line up when you get to the Tigers. It's really just closing out strong over this next week here and not letting a 3-game losing streak, which is where they're at, turn into a 4-game against the Nationals, and then you take 1 and then you go and you lose 3 or 4 to the Braves, and all of a sudden it's gloom and doom. Everything is horrible. I'd like to see the Mets win this series and take at least 2. You tell me the New York Mets go up and win 4 of the next 6 before they get to Detroit, I would feel great. 3, I would take if those 3 came against the Braves. I'd love that. Give me a series loss to the Nationals and you take 3 or 4. Or I guess, yeah, no. If you split to get to 3, you'd have to get swept. To win 3 against the Braves, you'd have to get swept by the Nationals, which I'm not okay with. Regardless, they go up. If they can win these next 2, take 2 from Atlanta, you end up, 4-2 to close out this last 6-game stretch before you get to that Tigers part, which would put you at what, 20-12 if math serves. On the other side of the break, I'll tell you if I was right about what I just said when it comes to the record. Before we get to that, before we discuss what was an awful game against the Nationals, today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Pro Baseball GM, the mobile game. This is one of my favorite parts of every day, is tinkering with my lineup, making trades, making free agent signings, managing every strategic aspect of my team through a season as I try to lead my team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and staff, managing team finances, scouting and drafting players, managing difficult personalities, navigating your franchise through free agency and all of the ups and downs of a season. All of this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want, when you want, once downloaded. You don't need Wi-Fi to play. It's all there for you in app play. Locked On Mets listeners are going to get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure you check it out to download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Start your dynasty today. All right, so how many of you caught the horrible math from the last segment? I could have gone back and edited that out and scrubbed it out, but look, this is an honest podcast. When I tell you David Peterson could be a number 3 starter and he barely looks like an MLB starter when the season starts, I own when I'm wrong. And when I say something as silly as the Mets are 14-10, I think, but they're going to go 4-2 over the next 6, and that's going to make them 20-12. Yeah, I leave it in there. So comment if you think I'm dumb on YouTube. Totally fine. Let me know. But now I can clarify after just realizing what I was saying. The Mets are, in fact, 14-10 after this loss on Tuesday. And if they go 4-2, that put them at 18-12. Simple math is hard sometimes. Anyway, I prefer to talk about simple math. Let's do 5 plus 16, 21. Let's do 4 plus 18, 22. Let's do 3 times 3, 9. Why am I doing simple math? Because I don't really want to talk about the Mets getting their asses kicked by the Washington Nationals. Not really something I'm in the mood to discuss. 5-0. Brutal. 5 hits from the Mets. Who was that Josiah Gray? I've never seen him look like that before. He looked pretty good. Is that the guy that they got for Max Scherzer? Now it makes a little more sense. 9 strikeouts for Josiah Gray. 1 walk, 4 hits allowed. And then, coming out of the bullpen, you think, okay, we get to kind of the underbelly of this Nationals pen. Mason Thompson, comes out of the pen and goes 3 scoreless on you. And looked as good as Gray. I don't know what happened there. 4 strikeouts, 1 hit, no walks. So, the Mets get wrecked by Nationals pitching, and they got Mackenzie Gore to face. Mackenzie Gore is a good pitcher. He's had a great start to the season. So, I don't know, man. I don't know how this series is going to unfold. I think it should unfold in the Mets' favor, but the lack of pitching in the Mets rotation right now and, a bullpen that can quickly get taxed, you just never know. And I will say that it was good to see Jimmy Yacobonis kind of wear it and hang in there and get the Mets outs, and Tommy Hunter able to do the same, get the Mets out. So all they had to use of their core guys was Adam Ottavino in this one. But still frustrating nonetheless. And Jose Butto, he pitched worse than the line would tell you, right? He only gave up 2 runs, but he walked 6, only had 1 strikeout. Not the best outing for Jose Butto. Give him credit for, getting some weak contact and escaping a little bit here and there. But, you can't walk 6 in 5 innings. You just can't do it, especially if you're not striking out anyone either. So, not a good outing from him. Not a great outing from Yacobonis. But, the Mets didn't hit in this one. And that's ultimately the end-all, be-all. You don't score any runs, you're not going to win any games, right? That's obvious. So, look, we'll see if the Mets bats will wake up in these final 2 games. I'm sure after laying an egg like this, you'd like to see it. They had a couple of chances in this one, but really no point to digress into them enough. Again, 5 hits. You only drew 1 walk, so you had 6 base runners across 9 innings against Nationals pitching. I know that Gray looked good and Thompson looked good, but still. You want to see more from the Mets. I don't really necessarily look at this one and say, oh, it's because the Mets have no starting pitching right now that they lost this game. No, they got a hit. So I imagine you get a better version of the Mets to close out this series. And, this is a team last year that didn't really let skids happen for too long. So 3 losses in a row hopefully will inspire some more winning ways for the Mets. But I will say that Butto, as far as just looking at him as a prospect who's getting some opportunities, I imagine there's still a good chance that he might have one more turn in the rotation. But there could still be some more to work out in AAA. I mean, I think he's perfect for the role he's in right now, of being the occasional spot starter when you need a guy. But you're also happy you have others that slot in ahead of him that will hopefully keep him in AAA most of the year if this rotation can get healthy with Scherzer and Verlander. So I think that's where we are with all of that. On tomorrow's show, Kodai Senga. We're going to be discussing one of his starts for all you everydayers. As always, thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan, and you can follow the show at Locked On Mets.